So not only do we get the X-Men team that was appointed and pretty much got murdered in 2 seconds once they were appointed, but we also get Orvis Solaris. Now, I'm sure he's been in some X-Men books and I do not read them all. I do not have the time, unfortunately. But me personally, I haven't seen him since Sons of Sinister when he was killing himself. Now, this might be the story that Charles was talking about in Immortal X-Men number 18 about how he attempted to become a Dominion using the Crown Crystal. Now, I thought they was going to do that in like the Rise of Power of X, but they might be doing it here. I don't know. I guess we'll find out here soon. My name is Dorian. This is SCN Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of House of X with Dead X-Men number 1. So our story starts off at the treehouse in New York that has been split in half. And then a lightning strike comes down and we see Frenzy and she does like a 4-point landing and she's like, it smells like fire and brimstone. That's not good. And then we see our Dead X-Men crew. We have Frenzy, who I just mentioned. We have Prodigy, Jubilee, Dazzler, and Cannonball. Now, Juggernaut was on there, but he didn't die because he's durable. And he has a Crimson Gem of Cederac. That helps. That helps a lot. Now, are they on a mission? Yes, you'll find out by who in a minute. And are they bouncing around from reality to reality? Yes. The treehouse doesn't look like that in the 616 reality. Now, it might once this war's over with, but right now, it doesn't. So Prodigy's like, there's something wrong. I'm not picking up anybody, let alone Moira. So right there, it shows you they're looking for Moira and McTaggart. So the Cannonball's like, it doesn't take somebody with your power, Prodigy, to know that this place has seen better days. And then Jubilee's like, at least we're not screaming, trying to hold our skulls together, talking about when Nimrod took them out the Hellfire Gala. And then Frenzy's like, quiet, something's coming. And then we see like demon bats from the demon dimension. So you know who's here, right? That's right, it's Magic. And she has taken over the whole planet. She's like, who dares trespass in my realm? Prodigy's like, hey, I read her mind. She remembers killing Myra and everybody else, so it's time to go. So the Jubilee's like, this timeline's toast. And then Dazzler's like, pull us out now. So then we switch to the Atlantic side of Krakoa that is still in the white hot room because Mother Righteous never moved it back, especially after, you know, she failed to become a Dominion and Destiny decided to kick her in the face. So then they land hard and then Sam goes, oh, now I know I'm a good Southern boy, but you can't be showing up as a burning bush. It just ain't right, Rach. And we see it's Scotty. That's Rachel Summers. Like, I know what she wants to call herself as Scotty. That's Rachel Summers. That is the other kid of Scott and Jean Grey. Actually, that's the only kid of Scott and Jean Grey because Cable is the kid of Scott and Madeline Pryor. She goes, I work with what's handy, Sam, and flames are part of the psychic package because besides Jean, nobody has a close relationship to Phoenix and Rachel. And then it shows that she's in no place X, nowhere, no when. And one day they're going to explain how that works. But if you know how that works, please let me know in the comments. So it's pretty much letting them know that it takes a lot of her focus to be able to communicate at the speed that they can comprehend her. Clocks work a little bit differently where she's from, or where she's at right now. So pretty much what they're looking for is a Myra McTaggart that is not cybernetic, like ours in the 616 is. And then Rachel gets a little moody with him. And she goes, well, let's take a moment to catch our breath, but not much more than that. Because Xavier trusted me to assemble the right team for this mission, I had thousands to choose from, and I chose you guys. So in the Rise of Power of X number 1, which is a really good book, I enjoyed the hell out of making that video. And if you didn't watch it, card's right there, link will be in the description. So pretty much Professor Xavier is ready to go back in time and kill Myra before her powers ever manifest, which means that Krakoa will never have happened. But not just that, because Myra is very important when it comes to the X-Men history, so all that's going to change too. So that's why it's so important to find a Myra that doesn't have cybernetics, because a Myra cybernetics can manipulate the information. One that doesn't have cybernetics can't, and they'll know the exact date and time that her powers manifested so they can go before that. So now that that little bit is over with, Sam assures Rachel that no, she picked the right team and they're going to be able to get it done. And Rachel pretty much says good, because the Myra engine doesn't have that many more path waves left, and the next jump that they do, if they don't find what they're looking for, they're probably going to be out of luck. So now we jump to terminal location Myra engine 2.4, which you can see the world is cracked in half and floating into space. And when they land, the atmosphere is pretty much gone, so they can't breathe. But then somebody teleports them out of there. But then you got somebody in the background who's watching the whole thing like, what is this? So Jubilee don't care where they got teleported to. All she's saying is, oh, sweet oxygen. And all you hear is, yes, courtesy of the X-Men. And this is a crazy roll call. You got Blink. I haven't seen her in a long time. You got Random. I haven't seen him probably since the 90s. That's the last time I seen him in anything. I think it was like X Factor, if I'm not mistaken. You guys probably seen him before or after that, but I personally haven't. You got Armor. You got Red Root or Red Fire. It's actually Root Fire. That's why I should be doing the videos, because I know more. Go DC. This is what Sunfire and Red Root are probably going to combine into, which they look really cool. And then you got Abigail Brand's crazy ass. And if you're wondering why I'm calling Miss Brand crazy as hell, you won't have to wait long, because our Abigail Brand of the 616 and this one of this reality, they're about the same. And this is why Jubilee is saying, Abigail Brand leading the X-Men? Oh, this is not a good future. And trust me, she ain't never lied. So Abigail is wondering why they, who look like some of their dead comrades from the past, are here alive and well. And she's like, you better start talking fast, otherwise we're going to throw you in a cold expanse of space. As we turn to the next page, we see the craziness just keeps on coming. We see that all that's left of Araco is an island that's flying in the sky that looks like a whale. And that's their spaceship. So now Prodigy's mutant power is he gathers information from other people, pretty much reads their mind, their entire minds, gets all the information. Like a computer hacker, but of people. But for him to do this, it hurts really bad. So Abigail wants to know what the hell's going on. They're explaining to her what the hell is going on. And then she's like, all right, so then he knows everything. And he goes, more or less, and I know what happened to Earth. So 616, Abigail Brand was trying to start like an intergalactic war. In this reality, she succeeded, but Orbis Solaris was the one pulling the strings. Hell, in our reality, Orbis Solaris might have been the one trying to pull the strings. So Orbis Solaris, using a wormhole strike, pretty much took out Krakoa, Orcus, most of the Avengers, and like 92% of life on Earth with his first attack. He also took out Araco at the same time, just in case they wanted to get some kind of revenge. And at the end it says, with a handful of surviving mutants scattered throughout the galaxy, with Abigail Brand humbled to find herself leading the team she accidentally manipulated to his downfall. So then Abigail's like, that about sums it all up, except for the humble part. And that's what I mean. She's crazy. So the Armor starts freaking out. She's like, have you come here to fix this, David? Because she knows how bad it's been. So the Frenzy chimes in. She goes, oh, time out. You know how paradoxes work. We're not even supposed to be sharing this with you. And right now, our clock is ticking down really fast, so we need to make it back down to Earth. So the Random's like, yeah, you guys were having a real swell time before we went down there and saved your asses. So the Blink's like, look, there's nobody on Earth except for scavengers. And besides, we're in the middle of a supply run. You lucky we picked up your life force ratings when we did. So then there's this big explosion. Jubilee's like, what's that? And then Root Fire, I got it right. Root Fire goes, is the exact attention we were trying to avoid. Now, Orbis Solaris took out Nimrod and the other AIs, but there's other AIs that are in the galaxy, like the Technarchy or the Phalanx. So then Dazzler is not a fan, and she's like, well, what the hell do they want besides assimilation? And then Abigail Brand lets her know we have the last Mysterium stash in the galaxy. So on the next page, we got Orbis Solaris, and I thought he was talking to himself until I looked a little harder. He goes, I blame the war farm, of course. My ascension would have taken place over a decade, hence if it wasn't for that rare misstep. Perhaps I should be more forgiving of myself though, Gabriel. Directing interstellar conflict takes time. And yes, he said Gabriel for Gabriel Summers. That dead body you see in there, that is Gabriel Summers or Vulcan. This dude can't catch a break. First, in our reality, Tarm beat him to death. And now in this reality, Orbis Solaris, I'm assuming, beat him to death. But he's like, that's okay. Because once I get the last of this Mysterium, time will be something that I'll have in ample supply. And then he starts joking to himself. Well, I guess he's joking to Gabriel Summers, but he's joking to himself. He goes, getting this bit of Mysterium is deeming to be harder than when I got a fragment of the Encron crystal, and that is the very nexus of reality itself. And on the next page, you got this reality's X-Men fighting the Phalanx, and Abigail Brand's like, down your feet, X-Men, and take as many of them as you can with you. So Prodigy starts freaking out, and Jubilee's like, you have another brain freeze? And he goes, no, it's her, Jubilee. It's Myra, and she's here, and she's close, and she's still human. So then Dazzler's like, this is exactly what we've been waiting for. This is our opportunity. And then Cannonball's like, I don't like these folks' chances unless we help them. So then Frenzy's like, look, we all knew the deal when we signed up for this mission. We need to trust Prodigy because according to him, we can still fix everything, and we need to just let Abigail and her X-Men handle themselves. But Cannonball, Jubilee, and Dazzler look like they're not listening, and they're heading into the fight to help Abigail when all of a sudden the spaceship comes out of nowhere, and all you hear is, come on, Abby, you started the fight without us? And then we see is Roberto Costa, or Sunspot, with a little gray on the side, looking like he's like a Brazilian Reed Richards. And he goes, oh, well, you know the Starjammers, we like to be fast to be late, but you mind we bring in the big guns? So now it's time to do another roll call. You got Juggernaut, who somehow, some way in the future looks younger. You got Lockhead, you got Mercury, you got Hepzibah. That's the best I could do. You got Warbird, who is Captain Marvel, and you got Smasher. So now that this reality X-Men now have help, our dead X-Men decide that they're going to listen to Frenzy and Prodigy and start looking for Myra. So then Prodigy starts to freak out again, and he's like, she's coming near us, and I've never absorbed a mind like hers before. So then Captain Marvel, Warbird, finds Orbis Solaris and goes crashing into a ship. So then Orbis Solaris goes, you cretin, this is a hermetically sealed chamber. And as I was reading this, I'm thinking to myself, you need to be more worried about them fists that are about to start coming your way. So then Warbird's like, no, I'm just the opening act. There's a kid out there who you killed his mom on Earth and you killed his dad in space, and he happened to inherit both of their powers, and he called dibs on you. And then Smasher comes in and does exactly that, smashes the Mysterium. So our dead X-Men are fighting the Phalanx because they're trying to find Myra when all this debris starts coming from Orbis Solaris' ship, and a piece of Mysterium hits Prodigy right in his chest. So then Frenzy comes over and she's like, how deep did it penetrate? Is your breathing compromised? And Prodigy's like, I don't know. It doesn't even hurt like it should. Is that bad? So then all of a sudden this mysterious cloaked figure comes running and goes, figure out find it in the middle of some mutant. Some things never change. And then Cannonball comes out of nowhere and goes, oh no you don't. No hitting my teammates when they're down, and he does his cannonball thing, and then the mysterious cloaked figure goes flying. And then we see it's Myra McTaggart, or as the book says, what's left of her, because she's missing an arm, she's missing the leg, and we all know that was Myra. So the Prodigy starts doing this thing, and he goes, oh, there is so much. There's so much more than what I expected. And Myra goes, what are ye? So then Prodigy goes, I got it. A full map of Myra's past, all of it, and not just her 10th life. We can go anywhere, any when. We can stop the Dominion before it's born. So then Cannonball's like, all right, we got what we came for. Let's get the hell out of here. So then they leave, and Myra gets up and sees a piece of Mysterium on the ground. So she walks over to her and goes, oh, that'll do nicely. So then Abigail's like, hey, get away from that, and starts shooting at her. And then Myra hits it with something, and Abigail falls back. And then Abigail's like, wait, how are you still alive? She goes, I had to stay alive to build this. Adamantium, carbonadium, vibranium coating. And that Zorn fella, I got a piece of his black hole brain. The only time you hear about Zorn is in these dystopian futures, and they're always doing something crazy to him. And then she's like, and now the final piece, a wee shard of Mysterium, the missing ingredient. And now I can cut a path straight back to my first life, and to make sure that Myra always wins. So at the Hellfire Gala, our heroes got killed by Nimrod. Now they gotta deal with Ultron. If it wasn't for bad luck, our heroes have no luck at all. But that brings up an interesting question. Who will win in a straight up fight? Would it be Nimrod or would it be Ultron? Please let me know in the comments. My name is Dorian, this is SEO Comics. We are continuing our coverage with the fall of House of X with Dead X-Men #2. So our story starts off on Island M. Now I've been reading comic books for a long time, and I've been reading X-Men comic books for a long time. I'm not an expert, but I know my stuff. And I know the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I know that Magneto started it. I know he's had 2 iterations. I know that Mystique, believe it or not, has ran the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants more than Magneto has. But other than Toad, I have never seen anybody on this page right here. And it's still a quote from The Rock. It doesn't matter if I know anybody on this page, because our Myra from a dystopian reality is about to take everybody out here. She takes out the one called Tower. You don't have to worry about remembering his name because you'll probably never see him again. And the one called Mentalo goes, stop, for the glory of Magneto. So obviously, in this reality, it is an iteration of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And the Myra just laughs and goes, ha, Eric, he's as useless as Charlton the Blue Boy. And then she commits to killing the rest of the people that's here. So then we switch to the Atlantic side of Krakoa, which is still in the White Hot Room, which I don't know how that's even possible, but comics. And Prodigy's like, you gotta send us back, Rachel. And Rachel, who was talking through a waterfall, was like, you guys did your job. You did what you needed to do. You found a biological Myra and you got the timeline. Now Professor Xavier can go back and meet Myra and have a talk with her, which if you guys are following Rise of the Power of X, which if you're not, cards right there to the playlist, link will be in the description. You can get caught up. We know that he's not going to go talk to Myra. He's about to go kill Myra. Another story for another day. And then Jubilee chimes in and goes, yeah, why would you want to go through all that stuff again? Evil Iliana timeline, unruly Ghost of Genosha timeline, Earth blows up timeline, like, no. So the project goes, I don't mean the Mora engine timelines. I'm talking about go back to the Myra's past lives. And I'm thinking to myself, well, all those alternate realities, all the Myras have the 10 different lives. So which one are you going to pick? Are you talking about the main Earth 6161? Again, I was a tad bit confused. And then we switch to No Place X, which if you've been reading The Rise of Power of X, then it kind of explains where No Place X is and what you're talking about. If you're confused, just click link at the playlist and all this will be cleared up. But that's pretty much where Rachel Summers is at. And she goes, Prodigy, these are defunct realities. The Myra engine timeline branches off of ours. So they are talking about the main 616 Myra. So she continues and she's like, in her past lives, even Xavier only knows what Myra was willing to share. I don't know if it's possible to even reach them, not even from outside of space and time, which is where No Place X is at. So the project goes, every plan left is a long shot. We can't afford to leave any options on the table. What if I can go back and absorb the knowledge of somebody in a past life where they stopped a Dominion? Highly unlikely, but I get where he's coming from. What if the key to all this is out there and we don't know that we're even missing it? So the Cannonball's like, I hear you, David, but these are real uncharted waters. And Frenzy brings up a real good point. She's like, and we don't know what will happen if one of us dies in one of her past lives and the Five has no way of recovering us. So then Jubilee's like, Frenzy, baby, that question is touch and go regardless. So then Dazzler chimes in and goes, Priority's right. Everything is on the line. We have to try. So Rachel's like, this is crazy. We completed our mission. We need to find a biological Myra, and we did that. Besides, I don't think I could target a specific life. I'd be flinging you almost at random. So then Dazzler's like, we're X-Men. This is what we signed up for. So Frenzy, who's normally on Priority's side, brings up another good point. And she goes, okay, so we go through the timelines. What if the Dominion sees us? Then what? So then Prodigy goes, yeah, but we don't know if he can even see in Myra's past lives. This might be the only thing on the table where he can't see coming. So then Cannonball's like, look, you're still hurt from the last jump, that rock in your chest. And Prodigy's like, look, I can't even feel it. And even if I did, it doesn't matter because we don't have the time. So then Rachel's still trying to talk him out of it, but all of a sudden there's a rumble where she's at and she goes, oh. So then Rachel's like, we're under attack again. That's pretty much Enigma's minions. It's now or never. And Prodigy's like, I can't ask you guys to join me. And Frenzy's like, you don't have to. We're in. So then Jubilee's like, all right, Rach, let's go. Let's pull off the impossible. So then we cut to Washington, D.C. in one of Myra's past lives, and we see Ultron is. You guys remember that? Ultron is. All right, I'm being too nerdy now. Yeah, there's big Ultrons, little Ultrons, medium-sized Ultrons. It's Ultron. Like Marsha. So the Cannonball's like, those are a lot of Ultrons. This is just as bad as one of the Myra engine timelines. And then Dazzler's like, except for we're a lot more exposed here. Everybody saw us portal in. Jubilee's like, I don't think they're really worried about us right now. They're worried about the murder robots that's killing everybody. So the Frenzy goes to Prodigy's like, this got to be killing you if all these mines are around here. And he goes, actually, I'm fine. Like, even with my limits off, I'm doing okay. So then Jubilee's like, that is reassuring and super ominous all at the same time, because she knows it's probably because of that thing in his chest. It's helping him out, but who knows what it's going to do to him later. And that thing is Mysterium. Should have said that the first place. So then Dazzler's like, move it, get out the way. And this big, huge foot almost comes crashing down on all of them. And Jubilee's like, oh, that was almost deja vu, because she caught a rough one at the Hellfire Gala. If you don't know what I'm talking about, cards right here, link will be in the description. So the Frenzy picks up the Ultron by the foot that almost came down on him and goes, Cannonball, you ready? And he plows right through it and goes, you set him up, I'll knock him down. So the X-Men are fighting the Ultrons. Prodigy goes running to a newsstand to see what timeline they're in. So as he's reading, he realizes that they're in the timeline where Myra assassinated every member in the Trask family. If you don't know about the Trask family, Boulevard Trask is the one who invented the Sentinels. So Sam's like, I'm guessing those assassinations didn't work out. These Ultrons feel like Sentinels, just a different coat of paint. So then Prodigy's like, no, that didn't stop the AIs from coming online. They just found another way, as you can see. So the Frenzy's like, that's the last of the robots. And Dazzler's like, that's good, because we are way off script. Because now they're not in one of the Myra timelines, they're in their own timeline. So if they do too much, they can change it drastically. Oh, I forgot to mention, Prodigy also said that Myra just assassinated Simon Trask, so they're about 10 years away from her death in this timeline. So then Dazzler's like, we need Rachel to pull us out now. So everybody in their minds here, pull us out now. And Cannonball's like, that wasn't Rachel, are we under psychic attack? And Jubilee's like, no, sounds familiar. It sounds really, really clever. I recognize that voice. So then Jubilee's like, over here, Frenzy, can you move this boulder out the way? So she throws a boulder and goes, oh no. So then we see that it's Emma Frost. She's carrying one of her students. She's like, please help get my students to the hospital. And she collapses. Jubilee catches her and she goes, what's wrong, Emma? What happened? So she's going into her diamond form and she goes, my skin is so brilliant. So I don't think this Emma has gone into her secondary mutation just yet. But then I hope you guys notice that she's also missing a finger. So the Cannonball's like, I don't think she recognizes us. And then Frenzy's like, it could be the trauma. And then Prodigy's like, no, the only impression I'm getting is her involvement with the Massachusetts Academy. Things must have gone differently here. You guys don't know what that is. It's a long story. Just cannot get into it right now. So then Jubilee's like, we want to help Emma, but we're not from around here. Could you help us out and let us know what's going on? And then Dazzler's like, I don't think that's a good idea. We might involuntarily change something. But then Emma's like, you know what? Perhaps you should see for yourself. So she shows them how there was a congressional hearing about the growing mutant population, plus also to the assassination of the Trask family. And how of all people, Hank Pym stepped up to the plate to replace Boulevard Trask and the Sentinels with his Ultrons. So Emma was there as like the mutant representative. And Henry Peter Gyrick was there running the whole show, so you know what's going to go bad. So that crazy Myra pops out of nowhere. I think that's what we're going to call it from now on out, crazy Myra. And says as much. Goes, Henry Peter Gyrick, you're so in any lifetime. So she starts murdering everybody in there. Hank Pym, before he dies, activates Ultrons, and that's why everything looks the way it looks right now. So as Emma pretty much dies in Jubilee's arms, they're all starting to realize that they are directly and indirectly responsible for what just happened. Like, they don't know about her weapon and how she's going through time. They don't even know that they're the ones that help her get the Mysterium. They don't know that. But they do know that that is the Myra that they got the information from, and now she's doing all this. So they feel that they're responsible, which they kind of are. Now they do figure out that she is trying to murder her way through the timeline to get back to the beginning. Now once she gets back to the beginning, what happens? Nobody knows. All they know is that they're the only ones that can stop her. And Frenzy pulls a line out of Malcolm X and goes, by any means necessary. These dead X-Men are dealing with a lot. You have a crazy Myra that is literally murdering her way through the timeline to try to get back to her first life, which they kind of help make happen. The person that sent them through the timeline is trying not to get murdered by one of the most powerful beings that Marvel has ever created.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
My name is Dorian. This is SEM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of House of X with Dead X-Men number 3. Our story starts off with our heroes getting pushed to a new timeline. You have Dazzler saying that she's still covered in Ultron oil. Now, if you're absolutely lost after I just made that statement, don't worry, your boy got you. Cards right there, links in the description to the playlist. And Jubilee's like, well, I still got Emma's blood on my hands, so perspective, Dazzler. And Dazzler's like, point taken. So the Frenzy's like, hey, quiet down, we don't know what timeline is Skyny sent us through. Scotty's Rachel Summers. Cannonball calls her Rachel Summers. I'm calling her Rachel Summers. So as they're walking through this corridor, they see Egyptian hieroglyphs on the wall, so that should give you an idea of where they're at. And as they walk through, they get to this chamber room, and they see that it's Apocalypse and Myra. This is her 9th life when she became the wife of Apocalypse. So Apocalypse is pretty much saying, who the hell let these people into our inner sanctum, and who do I gotta murder because of it? So Myra's like, isn't that Joanna Cargill, my king? Didn't she fail us years ago? And Apocalypse pretty much like, yep, I murked her myself. So these 5 are either imposters or they're unwanted visitors from another reality. Either way, they must be dealt with. Summon a host. And then Archangel doesn't look at it by the face, but by the body type. And there's a whole bunch of them. Starts flying after our heroes. So Cannonball's like, come on, Rach, we ain't got time to spare. See? Rachel. And then she gets them out of there. So now we cut back to the Atlantic side of Krakoa that's in the white hot room. Eventually they're gonna have to address that problem. So then Jubilee's like, Myra Apocalypse, I guess she went a little bit off the rails in some of these lives. And then Prodigy's like, Rachel, send us out again. And Sam's like, calm down, dude. Like, we need a breather. She probably needs a breather. That's why she brought us back here. So let's chill out for a second. So Prodigy's like, problem with that is when I scanned Myra's mind, I didn't detect anything about the Dominion, which I thought that plan was kind of far-fetched to begin with. So I'm not going to try to get too deep in the weeds with this, but I thought the Dominions were like singular, like multi-universal beings. In other words, like there's only one above all. There should be just one Enigma. So if another timeline figure out a way to defeat Enigma, then the problem is solved. If you're still dealing with an Enigma problem, then nobody knows how to beat them. You need to figure out how to beat them. That's just my thoughts. So Rachel shows up in the form of a boulder with a face on it and fire for hair. So she's pretty much like, I don't think you realize how difficult this is. I gotta manage you guys, send you through the timelines, and also on this side, we're dealing with some hunter killers that Rasputin 4 is trying to keep at bay so they don't murder us. So then Frenzy's like, well, even if we don't find out information about the Dominion, we still need to go through the timeline and go through Myra's past life. So then Rachel's like, why? And then they explain the whole crazy Myra slashing her way through the timeline issue. So now that we see that the crazy Myra actually made it to the 10th life, which is a current life that we're reading about right now, and she sees Cyclops being marched in pairs up the courthouse steps, and she's like, I hope you fry, Summers. Hope you all fry. She also made it back to a 3rd life where she created a cure for the X gene. And if you guys remember Hox and Pox, that's when Destiny, Mystique, and Pyro showed up and had to have a little talk with her. So Rachel's like, so you trying to tell me a half crazy Myra is killing her way through the timeline and you decided not to tell me right when you found out about it? So Jubilee gets pissed. She goes, oh, I didn't realize that we had permission to kill off whatever threats we encounter. I thought the whole point of this was to create the least amount of tension as possible. Besides, you're the one that pulled us out of Ultronville and a pocket Egypt. So then Rachel's like, all right, look, I'm not mad. Actually, the reason why I picked you 5 is because I knew you guys wouldn't go all Terminator through the timeline. And there's no way that you could have predicted that a crazy Myra would be ripping away through time and space like this. So Prodigy's like, maybe not, but us being there changed how things were going to play out. So we need to do something about that. So then Rachel's like, things couldn't get any worse right now. We have a Dominion that we're trying to stop, but he's also trying to kill us. And then also too, we got Myra that's ripping her way through the timeline. She might make it back to when Professor Xavier is talking to Myra and might mess everything up. So then we see our crazy Myra has made it to her 2nd life, and she sees the plane that her 2nd life Myra boarded on. She goes, buckle up, lass, it's about to be a bumpy ride, 'cause I think that plane goes down if I'm not mistaken. So we also see that she made it to her 4th life, where I think that's when she joined up with Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, if I'm not mistaken. I think that happened. I mean, don't quote me on this stuff. Like, Hox and Pox was a very long time ago, so I'm just trying to remember this stuff off the top of my head. So the Prodigy's like, that's why you gotta keep sending us back, because we gotta fix this whole crazy Myra issue. And then Rachel's like, did you miss the part that how it was extremely difficult for me to pinpoint these 10 lives in the first place, and also to do it while we're under assault? So the Mother Righteous is like, I can help, All you gotta do is let me out. And Rachel's like, no. Which, I wonder what they're gonna do with Mother Righteous. Like, they killed off Bargain Ben Sinister, so I wonder what they're gonna do with Motherfucking Righteous. I did not come up with that nickname. That was Sebastian Shaw. He's an asshole, but he's also funny asshole. And then that is a question that I have for you guys. I don't read all of the X comic books because I just do not have the time. I do work a full-time job and I have a family, so I can't read everything. But I know he made a deal with Xavier, and that's the last I heard of him. So I wonder if anybody dealt with him yet, or does he still need to be dealt with? Please let me know in the comments. So they're trying to figure out exactly how they're going to stop this Myra, and Rachel's like, we're trying to logic out the impossible here. I mean, we don't even know if she's even following the same set of rules that we are. So Jubilee's like, well, she's hacking and slashing her way, so why don't we just hack and slash faster? And Rachel's like, it doesn't really work that way. Besides, right now we're just playing Whack-A-Myra right now. In other words, we're just hoping that we pick the right timeline that she's happens to pop up in. So then Prodigy's like, well, she's trying to make it back to her first life, so why don't we just go to that one? And Rachel's like, well, at least that's something to aim for. According to Professor Xavier, her first life was pretty uneventful and then stretched for like 1,000 years, which is pretty crazy because in her sixth life that we're on right now, she encounters Wolverine, who is 999 years old. So Wolverine's like, I don't know who you are, but you're damn straight the Myra that I know. And the Myra goes, you would know better than most, especially in this life. So the Wolverine is like, if you're with the blue meanies that's keeping us locked up here, I'll send you back in pieces. And the Myra's like, you truly never change, Logan. It's comforting. And as much as I would love to stay in Gab, I'm getting awfully close to my destination. So I'll let you go ahead and enjoy the inedible, old friend. So then Dazzler's like, look at the sky. It's not looking good here, Rach. And Rachel's like, it's not looking good anywhere. Enigma, Professor Xavier sit down with Myra, this crazy Myra, everything is starting to intersect. So then Rachel goes, speaking of Professor Xavier, he's been gone for a minute. If Rasputin 4 got the invaders covered, then I need to check on him. So the Mother Righteous starts talking that Mother Righteous She goes, Rachel Summers and Rasputin 4, lost little girls with the weight of everything on their shoulders. And Rachel doesn't even bat an eyelash. She goes, Mother Righteous, a stuck in an egg. So Mother Righteous goes, fiery. Let us both hope, Ascani, that Charles and Myra's little play date achieves its goal. So now we cut to far away on Earth's moon. It could be the blue area, it could be the gray area. I just recently found out that there's a gray area. Check out Immortal Thor #2. Cards right there. Link will be in the description. You got Myra, who looks to be in some kind of coma, and you got the old school looking like a panther beast that's doing the evaluating on her. When all of a sudden the alarms start to go off and they're like, is there a signal attack? And they're like, no, it's too soon. We know it's our dead X-Men. And Dad's just like, crap, there's no way this is Myra's first life. And Jubilee's like, this looks like Epcot on steroids. And then in the background, all you hear is, normally we would extend a warm welcome to any and all mutants. But after what the Sentinels did to us, we're not taking any chances. X-Men, defend your home. And this is Myra's 5th life. And the X-Men team here is led by Psylocke. You have Cyclops, who looks pretty crazy. I mean, he's spot on, one eye. You got Wolfsbane, you got Sway, and you got Banshee. So Banshee wastes no time and he hits him with a sonic scream, and then Dazzler goes, attacking a pop star that could turn sound to light. I guess we haven't had the privilege to meet in this lifetime. So now Cyclops is about to attack Jubilee. Jubilee's like, hold on, wait, we have no reason to fight. And Cyclops is like, I agree. I'm on one mission, to help my wife protect the squad that's here right now. And Jubilee goes, wait, hold on, time out. You and Psylocke are married? So as soon as Jubilee said that, Wolfsbane took a strike at her. She gets out the way, but Sam comes and hits Wolfsbane, and then they start jawing at each other because these two go way back from like X-Force when Cable was running it in like the early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. So then Sway uses her powers to mess up Sam. So then Psylocke and Frenzy are going at it, and Psylocke's like, we just got wiped out last week by some Sentinels, and some of the people that died all of a sudden appear out of nowhere. How am I supposed to feel about that? So then Psylocke hits her with a psychic blast at the temple. You know that had to hurt. And Frenzy goes, go ahead, read my mind. And now you know we're not here to hurt you. So in the background, all you hear is somebody say, oh, you're here for little old me? And then Psylocke turns around and goes, wait, you're out of your coma? So Myra takes her axe and hits everybody with an energy blast and goes, oh, I am not the Myra you used to. She's a saint in comparison. Me, I am much more fun. We got one more issue left, people. How do you think this is going to end? Please let me know in the comments. Now, does this story have a womp womp ending? It does, but I don't blame Steve Foxe. No, this is not his fault. See, they were told that the Krakoan age needs to come to an end like yesterday. So a lot of these threads that they're going to have to wrap up, they're going to wrap up in a womp womp fashion. And there's some things that are not going to be resolved at all. I guarantee that. But this does give a little bit more insight into what Professor Xavier is doing, all these uncharacteristic things that he's doing, that it might not all been his choice. But to his credit, he did say that this was the worst way to go, that he did not want to do this at all. But he had no other option now. And now I have no other option but to get this party started. My name is Dorian, this is SEM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of House of X, and we are concluding our coverage of Dead X-Men with number 4. So our story starts off right where the last one left off. They're in Moira's fifth life. Yes, I'm going to say it like that because everybody gave me hell about how to pronounce her name. So that's the new standard going forward. And she pretty much pops up and was like, I heard you guys been looking for me. Oh, I ain't hard to find. I'm right here. And then Psylocke of this timeline reads her mind and goes, whew, she is corrupt. And she goes to Frenzy and is like, I apologize for attacking first and ask questions never. So then Frenzy's like, don't worry about it, Braddock. I would have probably did the same thing. And then Moira is like, don't tear yourselves up. It's my job. So Frenzy's like, X-Men, take her down. And then Dazzler pops up out of nowhere, puts Moira in a chokehold and goes, hey, Rachel, we need to go now for our loser. So Rachel's bringing them back, but they're going back through all 10 of Moira's lives, and Prodigy is absorbing everything. So then Moira is looking around and she's like, where am I? And Rachel's like, in my mind, in your mind, a little bit of both. She's like, you have some really good psychic defense, but nothing I really couldn't force open. She's like, I really don't care if I break you. You're beyond broken. So the Moira's like, well, whose fault is that? I gave up most of my lives to try to figure out a way where the mutants win, and look at what it got me. And the Rachel's like, yes, and it won't matter. Then she starts to explain how Charles Xavier pretty much lied to her, how she should have anticipated it, but she didn't. And how Charles is going back to where Moira is very vulnerable as a child and pretty much put an end to her and pretty much erase everything. And she's pissed off about the whole scenario, so she doesn't really have time to deal with a monster like her. So she sends Moira and the Dead X-Men to her original timeline. Abigail Brand of this timeline is still getting over the beating that Moira gave her, and then she looks up and goes, oh no, she's coming back for more. And then Moira, as she's still falling from the sky, goes, no, not again. I just broke free of this barren hell, you flaming hair. So if you guys remember from the first issue, this planet doesn't have an atmosphere, so they can't breathe on it, so they're reaching for their space helmets. Moira's like, well, if I'm stuck here, I might as well kill as many mutants as I can. She throws her axe, is headed for Prodigy, and then Dazzler gets in the way and gets stabbed all up in the back with that. So Dazzler looks dead. I mean, anybody will look dead when they take acid back. Jubilee's like, I got dibs on ripping her head off, and then Cannonball's like, I'm with you, Jubes. So out of nowhere, Orbis Solaris shows up and he's like, the strangers have returned. I need to get my Mysterium back. Now, what Orbis Solaris is doing is he's pretty much collecting Mysterium, and he also has a shard of the Imcron Crystal. He's using that to try to ascend to Dominionhood, but we all know he's going to get stopped by Enigma. Now, in Marvel fandom, they said that he gets killed by Enigma as he ascends. I want to read that. We read all of the ascensions that failed. We read the Sons of Sinister, that was our tried and true Sinister. And Rise of the Power of X #1, that was Dr. Stasis' attempt at Dominionhood, which that was his only cool moment he ever had that I've ever read. Mother Rice's failed attempt was in Immortal X-Men #18. I want Orbis Solaris' attempt. Like, you got to give it to me. Before you end all this, you got to give me Orbis Solaris' attempt. Spoiler alert, is not in this book. But if you remember back in Dead X-Men #1, a shard got lodged in Prodigy's chest, and Orbis Solaris like, I want that back, and he takes it back by taking him. He also takes back the shard that's in Moira's crazy ass battle axe. And then Moira gets the you-know-what knocked out of her by Frenzy. And just in case you guys don't know, Frenzy is very strong. Like, she's on par with, like, She-Hulk. So then Moira's like, first Eric, and now poor little Moira. Charles always taught you guys to pick on the elderly. And then Cannonball's coming behind her is like, keep McNeil's name out your mouth. He's a hero. Can we talk about that? Okay. All mutants were welcome to Krakoa. All mutants. But all these guys are not heroes. Like, Magneto has done some horrible things. Mystique is a bad guy. Destiny is a bad guy. Apocalypse is a bad guy. Juggernaut's a bad guy. The Blob's a bad guy. Toad's a bad guy. Like, all these people were bad guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Sinister, Sebastian Shaw, Emma, and I'm sure I'm missing a few there. But ain't the heroes? Okay. But, like, flat out heroes? Not when you got a track record like these guys do. But as far as, like, being a hero, I want to call Magneto a hero. He's just not being a soul anymore. But during that whole exchange, Moira took the opportunity and knocked the hell out of Cannonball. And then Jubilee took that opportunity and hit her with some jubilation. So now Moira's done playing around and she's about to use the black hole power in her axe to pretty much take care of the X-Men, or dead X-Men. When out of nowhere, the Starjammers show up. But we all know that's not the, Starjammers that we know. That's Roberto Costa as Corsair. I guess you could say he's still Sunspot. And then Dazzler wakes up out of nowhere. I don't know how, but she woke up. And then she shoots Moira's arm clean off. So then she goes, I think I figure out how my little death-beaten power works. If I get smashed to a pulp by Nimrod, game over. But axe to the back, that's a nasty flesh wound. I guess I could live to fight another day. I don't know how her power works. That's way beyond me. So all that's going on, Prodigy is still being held by Orbis Solaris. And Orbis Solaris is doing his little monologue because, all sinners just like to monologue. And then he eventually pulls out the Mysterium or the Imcron Crystal. It was one or the other. He either had the Imcron Crystal in his chest or he had the Mysterium. I don't know which one, but one of them was in there. And now Orbis Solaris got it back. But Frenzy catches Prodigy. They're asking him if he's okay. He's like, there's no hole, there's no blood, so I guess I'm okay. Like, all right, Rachel, let's get us out of here. And then you have Orbis Solaris, and he's doing his ascension. But then he's like, there's already a Dominion here. I didn't calculate this. And that's where it stopped. We don't get anything else after that. And that hurts me to my heart. So while that's going down, Moira is trying to get away. Abigail Brand makes it to the ship and tells Roberta Costa, like, look, you need to take care of the Axe Lady. He's like, well, we're really here for Orbis, but we got something for the Axe Lady. So on the next page, we see Moira and she goes, oh, f*** off. You couldn't even set a mutant finish me off. As Juggernaut comes crashing down on her and pretty much like, you're done. So I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty much it for this comic book. I mean, the rest of it, they kind of just start talking and they find out about Professor Xavier's plan. Rachel kind of fills him in. But then Prodigy had like the Imcron Crystal in him, so I guess it was the Imcron Crystal. And it took him through all the different lives of Moira, so he's seen everything that Moira went through in all 10 of her lives. So that's when I guess they come up with the plan to tell Professor Xavier. Like I said, womp womp. It ended horribly. But again, I don't blame Steve Foxe because he had to rush this thing. This probably should have been at least 8 issues, should have been 4, and it was going to end womp wompy. I mean, a lot of these things are going to end womp wompy, so just prepare yourself. I hope the main stuff doesn't, but yeah, hate to be a killjoy, but yeah, it didn't end nowhere near the way I expected.